Hello bead friends, we're back with a new tutorial. Today we will continue our adventure in the macrame world, which is the antique technique of knotting with beads and threads. We will be making our new Kahina earrings that were inspired by the queen of the Berbers that lived during the 7th and 8th century, and she led her people to defend her nation from the North African invaders. I've just finished reading a book about her that I will be talking about in my Instagram account in the next days, so make sure you follow us. As you can see, I've made the earrings in two versions, big and small. The tutorial will show you how to make the smaller version step by step, and then I will explain briefly in the tutorial how to make the bigger version, which only changes the number of threads and the base that we will be using. As always, you will be able to find all the kits in all the colors that you can see of the earrings. So I've made them blue with silver base, light dusk pink with gold, red and gold for Christmas, and then I've made a hot pink with gold and orange and green drops. Then we will be making today this version in purple and silver, and then I've made in the previous tutorial in the Italian version the gray and green. The materials that you will need for today's project are Slon Thread in 0.5 millimeters, so the thinnest available. We sell this in 70 meters bobbins, and we have more than 40 colors in our shop. You will need to cut 11 threads by 12 inches each. If you're buying our kits, you will find them already pre-cut. Then you will need 2 square bases, and it's important that they're closed. And this is a 15 millimeter diameter, so 0.6 inches in diameter. Then you would need 2 hook findings for earrings. Then you will need a drop with a vertical hole, and it's important that it's pretty large, at least 1 millimeter, because you will have to have 2 threads go through. The size of this drop is 0.6 inches by 0.5, so in millimeters it's 9 times 13 millimeters. You can use bigger or larger, whatever you pick. And then you will need flat nose pliers to put your findings on and to help you string the drop on. A thread burner, which is always essential when making macrame projects, so I highly recommend it. You can find this on our shop. Then I usually use Attack glue, which is a transparent glue, which is very useful when trying to have the drop go through the thread, because this will, once you let it dry, it will make your thread more stiff, so that you can put the threads through your drop more easily. A pair of scissors, and then lastly, our macrame beadboard, with which we can't make anything otherwise. And you can find this all on our shop. Also, lastly, you will need some round Miyuki 11 size beads. You need only 4 for each pair of earrings that you're making. So if you have them already in your bead box, whatever color you have will work, because you only actually need only 4 beads. In our kits, you'll find more than 4 pieces, so that if you lose them, you will still have extra. So to start off, cut 12 inches strings, and you need 11 strings by 12 inches. Cut them all. And once you've cut them, you have to take one string, fold it in half to find its center. Wait, like this. Then you take the base, your square base for the earring in metal. Have the loop of the center of the string go through, and then put both ends of the string through the loop and pull, so that you attach the loop on the base metal. And do the same thing with all your threads. So fold them in half, find the center, Once you find the center, go through the same way you went. So we were going from under the base and then through both loops so that they're all attached the same way. Hook all your threads. Here we are on our macrame board. I've just placed a piece of paper on top of it so that it's white and it's easier to see. It's the same board you guys have. I've hooked up all my strings on my metal base. They're all in the same way. And we want to use this side where you have the little loop from the center that goes through so that they're all facing the same way. And we want to put the 6th thread on both sides, so the middle thread on the corner here, and then the other 2 on 2 sides. So you'll have 5 threads on one side, 5 of the other, and then a center thread. And then we're not actually going to use the whole macrame board. We're going to use and work off one of the corners, because to have the arrow shape that we will be making, it comes out nicer if we work just on this corner. So we place the base this way with the threads going one side and the other down, and then we take 2 pins and we pin it. And you have to pin the first pin on top in the corner, and I've slanted it so that it keeps my metal down, and then the second one same way on the corner down like this. Then we have to hook our threads. So the first one goes on the first couple of threads, because now each thread will be double. First 2 over here, then the next one go to the next 2 couples, and then the last one on the bottom over here. And then we'll hook up the other 3, the other side. So first 2 couples over here, next 2 couple of threads over here, so you'll have 4 threads for the first 2, and then you'll have 2 threads. And now I'm hooking up the 6th thread, the center one on one side of the corner and one on the other, so that they're already split, and this way the thread will stay in the corner, which is supposed to stay there. All right? And then I won't be actually working on this side, on this gray. First, I'll show you on my model, which is made of more colors, so that it's easier to see how I'm going to work. You can see I've placed 6 threads on this other metal base, and I'm only going to show you half of the earring then. So one side plus the corner. I'm actually missing the other 5 strings on this side, which I'll hook up later so that it's easier to see. So I've unhooked the first pair of strings, which in my case is dark blue, and I'll take the furthest left thread, so the first one on the left, and I'll bring it on top of all the others to the right, like this, and I'll hook it on the other opposite side so that it's on top of all the others, and this will be the supporting thread on which I'll be knotting all of the other threads. And now I'll show you the basic knot, which is the one that we will use for all our project today. So you have to, with the second string, so the first one that you have left on the left, make a loop under the supporting thread, then have your knotting thread, so this thread that we're gonna knot, go under the supporting thread, just the supporting thread, and then through to come out the loop. And then we're gonna close up the knot by pulling on both the supporting thread to bring it towards you, towards where we have hooked it up on the board, and the other one will go against it in the opposite direction to close it off. It's very important how you keep your hands and how you close your knot to have the best results. You want to keep your hands below the supporting thread. You don't want them to go over it, but always under. You can use your nails to string along the knot and close it well, and then you can pull on the supporting thread, but always pull in the direction in which you have actually hooked it up to the board, because that's the direction that you want your knots to go. Then you have to do a second thread with the same thread, so make a loop under the supporting thread, go under the supporting thread with the knotting thread and come out, and then pull and close it well. Then hook up the knotting thread that you've just finished, and pick the next pair. Look at the order of the strings. Make sure you take them in the right order. So take the one furthest to the left and make the same loop. And here it's very clear how it goes because we have two different colors. So a loop under the supporting thread that is blue. My knotting thread is gray. And then it goes under the supporting thread. Here you go. Pull it through. So this is my knot. And then you want to close it. And do a second one. So always 2 knots with each thread. And then hook up the thread that you've just finished. And take the next one, which is the second one of the pair. So it's again gray for me. You'll have threads with all the same color, but it's just to show you more clearly what I'm doing. And then I have to take the next pair, which in my case is light blue. Just that one. So let me hook up this pair that's moved back. Here you go. So make one loop. Let me hook up also the other one because it's gonna mess with my image. All right, now it's clearer. Make a loop, go under, pull through. And you want to be careful on how you pull your strings. If at any time you see as you're knotting that your supporting thread and the knots that you're making come farther away from where you want them to be, because you want them to be right on against your metal base. If you have some space, then it means that you're actually knotting correctly, but maybe you're just not pulling your threads correctly. So make sure that you don't have space. If you have space between the knotting that we're making and the base, then don't go ahead, stop, undo a few of the knots once you see the space until you don't see it anymore, and then try again. Because if you start having the space and your threads aren't straight but they're going diagonally, you can't fix that unless you pull apart the knots. So don't go ahead, just try again. It's very, very important how you're pulling on your threads. I can't say that enough. Okay, so I have my gray thread. I'll be showing you this all in for the first one at least, because I want to show you. So if we actually have 5.5 strings for each side, then you'll be knotting 11 threads in total. So if you have 11 threads and 2 knots each, you're making 22 knots on each side, so that you have an idea of how many knots you're actually making. Last pair. It's my blue pair. And it's very clear, as you can see by using all the different colors, how my work has been done. Now you see all the different colors I've used. Okay, now I've gotten to the last pair, to the pair that is not actually all on this side. So first off, you can see that my work has slid off and has moved really on the top of this corner. We want to push it slightly back because we need space, because half of this thread, the first half of this thread, will be on this side, but it has to stay on the corner. So we want to push your work behind. If it's slid like mine, it will have done the same thing. And then knot the first of these of this pair, of the last pair. 1 and 2. And you have to be quick between the first and the second, because the first one doesn't close off perfectly until you've done the second knot on each thread. And there you go. This is my half of an earring. So my supporting thread has done its job. It's finished, because this knot is not part of this side, it's part of this side. So I take it off and I hook it up again on my corner. And you can see now that half of my earring has been made. Now I'll show you on the other side, on the same color earring. We are on the other earring, the one all gray. And as you can see, I've made both the left side and the right side. The right side is made exactly the same as the first side that you've seen in the colored version. And we're actually going to be making both sides at the same time. So first you'll do the left and then the right, and then now we'll add the second row of knots. So the earring is made completely in 3 sets of knots on each side, and the 2 halves of the earrings are completely separated except for the string that they have together that splits in half on the corner at the beginning, and then they will match up again once we put the drop. So for now it's normal to have a separation between the 2 areas. And these 2 strings are the 2 supporting threads that I've just finished. So they're down, I've put them already on each side, and now we're ready to have a new supporting thread. So first off, we will need 2 size 11 round Miyuki beads, like these, like I said at the beginning. So take the first thread on the left side and have the bead go through the thread, like this. Have the bead go slide it up until the beginning of the thread. And then take your supporting thread, which is the one with the bead on, and take it from left to right again and hook it up on the opposite side, like this. Then unhook the first thread that you have left over on the left. This is the new supporting thread with the one on the beads, and we do the same knot. So over, loop under the supporting thread and pull. And you want to pull closely on this one because you want your bead to slide and go on the furthest left that you can at the beginning of these knots. Right, just like this. And again with the second thread. Now again, it's very important how you pull your supporting thread and how you close off these knots to have the 2 supporting knots, supporting lines of knots, let's call them like that, one next to each other. As you can see, I'm making a second row and you want them right next to each other. If I was pulling too far or in diagonal, I'd start having spaces in between these 2 rows of knots, and we do not want that at all. We want them really, really close to each other. So the next one. Okay. Now I'll show you on the other side because this is a dark color, so you don't see too much. So we're back on the colored side. I've put the bead on the first left thread, and then we take the first left thread, which becomes the new supporting thread, and we hook it up on the right side on top of all the others like we've done before. Now as you can see, if I hook it up on the one straight down of the hooks, my thread is in diagonal and I have room between my knotting row, which I've already done previously, and the new one. We don't want that. We want the thread to go right next to the rows that we've already made. So I'll hook it up on the next one and just leave it slightly less tight so that it's easier for me to knot. Then I'll unhook the first pair of threads, which is gray. Let me hook back these lighter ones because I want it to be clear. All right, so this is the first pair that we will be knotting on our supporting thread. Now, all right, let's take the first one on the left, do a loop, and go under the supporting thread, which my supporting thread is again blue in this case, and pull. And again, it's important how you close the knot and how you pull on your strings. And you want to push that bead right tightly on the left. And again. So go on and knot everything on this side except the last thread, and I'll see you there. Okay, so I finished the second row of knots, and as you can see, I have one thread left, as I said you should leave. So my last thread is actually this blue one, and I'm gonna knot it now on my supporting thread like the others. Now I wanted to show you on this side that is all colorful how the colors are changing. So my blue threads were at the beginning over here, and now because we've used them as supporting threads, they're at the beginning over here. So they've moved. So my earring doesn't end anymore with the light blue, but it ends with the dark blue. This is because the supporting thread from before became one of the knotting threads, as this one will do now because we're finished. So once you're done with the second row on the left side, go and do the second row on the right side. Here I got it for you to see. I've done both second and second with the 2 beads at the beginning. We have to make the third row of knots right under the second, and we're actually going to do a little step here and skip some threads to have it a smaller row so that it just points more and gives it this more arrow feeling. So we're actually going to skip the first 2 rows of threads that we find on the left side, and we're going to start working with the third thread. So the third thread on the left side will become our supporting thread. So we'll take it from the left and hook it on the right like the others, on top of the others. And then we'll take the 4th thread, so the other light blue one for me, and knot it. So it's going to be made in the same exact way as the other 2 rows. The only difference is that we've skipped the first 2 threads, and this way the row will be shorter. Go ahead and knot all your threads on this side, just like we did with the other rows. Make sure to use your threads in the correct order and to make 2 knots with each thread. Finish the 3rd row, and this thread goes, it's my last supporting thread, it goes here. So the first half of the earring is finished. You should do the 3rd row on the right side. You can see here on my purple version, I finished it. So I have both the 2nd rows with the beads and the 3rd rows with the shorter step and on both sides. So now my knotting is done. The only last step that we have to make actually is putting the drop on this earring to have the 2 sides go through. So you take the first thread, the center thread, so the last thread on each side, and we take our drop and have 1 thread go through, and then the other. Now I haven't actually glued my threads because this drop has a very large hole, but in any event, if you do have a drop that is slightly smaller with the hole, then I suggest you put glue on the thread, let it dry so that this thread becomes nice and stiff, and then have 1 thread go through and then the other. And you can help yourselves with pliers as well. Now I'm going to take off my pins, take out my earring from my board, and this is my earring almost done. So first off, we're going to close off the 2 threads under the drop to seal the drop itself. So let me show you just the 2 threads that are under the drop that go through the drop. Make a knot, and it's very important that the drop is nice and tight so that the knot is right under the drop. So pull and close it, If you're having trouble with closing the knot, you can take the pin, place it in your loop, which will be your knot, and help yourselves to have this knot. The knot has to remain at all times right under the drop while you close it, so that it's correctly in the right place, so that it's placed in the right place. There you go. If you're satisfied with the placing of your knot and it's nice and tight so that you see that it brings the two halves of the earrings together, then you can take out your pin and just push it again, because you'll get some more space from there, some more wiggle. And then it's time for our thread burner. So I always keep my batteries nice and new, because this works best when the batteries are nice and new. I heat it up. Now I have some leftover burns from previous projects, so I'll have that burn off before I start burning, because all the material that actually comes into contact with this will actually burn through and become black. So my thread this time is very dark, so I won't see it, but if you have lighter colors like the light blue that I was using, it's best if you keep your point always clean while burning. So if you get some material on it from burning, then just have the patience. There you go. We've burned off the first two to have the material that just gets on the thing to burn off before you burn anything else. And then we will do it with all the other threads now. Okay, I've actually switched out my batteries, and you can see that when they're new, the point actually flashes red. It's best. And now we'll start burning off all of these threads. So to burn them off, I actually work on the reverse side, on the back of the earring, first off. And then you want to pull on the earring and on the thread so that they're nice and tight while you burn them, so that you get the best burn. You want it to cut right next to the knots, without burning the knots, obviously, but nice clean burn. So that's why it needs to be nice and new with the battery, so that it cuts right through. It burns them off, easy peasy. Okay, see how here I've left a bit? We can fix that, it's not a problem. But the better you do it the first time, the better the outcome and less hassle. So we'll do the other side. Again, from the back, you can notice from my knots that I'm on the back. Obviously be careful, because when it's nice and new from the batteries, it burns really quickly, so you don't want to burn your fingers. So keep your fingers far away from this. All right, now you can see as I've burned quite nicely on this side, and whereas I have quite a few frazzles here, turn it on front so that you can see. So now we are going to perfect it. So with my point nice and heated, I'll start burning these ends off and pushing them behind. So this time I'm working on the front of my project, and I'm pushing the materials on the back so that they stick on the back and seal off. Like that. And then we do the other side, so it's easier if I turn it this way. I'm left-handed, so my burner is in my left hand. Let me know if there's any other left-handed beaters. I've met quite a few in my career. So that's it. Our earring is actually done. We're just missing our ear findings. So let's take pliers and hook it up. Here are my pliers. I'm using flat nose pliers. Gonna open up this loop. There you go. Have the square go through it, and then close it back up, going back. And that's my earring all set and done. And now I have the perfect pair. Voila! Here's the explanation if you want to actually make the bigger version. And first off, the base for our earrings is twice as big. The smaller version is 15 millimeters, so 0.6 inches. The bigger version is 1.2 inches, so 30 millimeters. Once you have that, and we have both sizes in our shop, and you'll find both kits for both sizes, as you have seen in the tutorial. And then you will need, instead of 11 threads, you'll need 15 threads, again of 12 inches. So the length of the thread doesn't change, it's the number of threads. So you won't need 11, but you'll need actually 15. So you'll have 6 on each side, plus the middle thread. That's all for today, bead friends. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. As always, if you have questions or comments, please leave them below. Remember to sign up to our channel by clicking the bell so that you may be notified every time I place a new tutorial. There's quite a few coming out for Christmas, so they will be coming out in the next weeks. So keep an eye out. There's one for Macrame as well, probably. And if you enjoyed the tutorial, you can also buy the kits for the earrings on our shop, which is www.happybead.it. Also, you can follow us on social media to see different colors and have a look at the book that I read about Kahina, if you want. You can find us on Instagram as Happy Bead Milano, and on Facebook you can find us as Happy Bead La Fabbrica delle Perline. Thank you. Until next time, take care.